5 minutes after Darius Jackson, a black tech titan gets yanked from his luxe train seat for a white woman. The whole crew's canned, but that's just the spark of a wildfire no one expects. What looks like a petty squabble on the ritzy TransContinental Express morphs into a brutal showdown that'll shatter lives and fortunes. A conductor's snide, "You don't belong here," flips the script, unleashing Darius's hidden clout, and a reckoning that'll echo for years. What's he plotting next? Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from, and if you're all about justice kicking butt, smash that like button and subscribe for more epic tales. Darius Jackson steps onto the gleaming platform in Chicago, his polished loafers clicking against the tiles as he boards the TransContinental Express, a rolling palace of wealth and prestige slicing its way to Los Angeles. At 45, he's the CEO of Nexus Innovations, a $3 billion AI empire he built from scratch, and today he's headed to a tech summit to unveil a game-changing algorithm. He's booked the Vista Suite, a private cabin cocooned in luxury with floor-to-ceiling, windows that frame the world like a living painting, chosen for its solitude and space to work. His navy suit hugs his broad frame, a laptop bag slung over his shoulder, and his platinum pass glints in his wallet, earned through years of loyalty to the rail line. He settles into the plush leather seat, the faint hum of the train vibrating through the floor, and opens his laptop, fingers poised to refine his keynote speech. The cabin smells of cedar and possibility, sunlight streaming through the glass, casting golden streaks across his notes. He exhales, savoring the rare calm before a storm of meetings, unaware that chaos is already slinking toward him. The door slides open with a sharp hiss, and in strides Miles Carter, a conductor with a wiry build and a face pinched tight like he's perpetually sucking on a lemon. His uniform's crisp, badge gleaming, but his eyes narrow as they land on Darius, scanning him up and down with a flicker of disdain. Behind him hovers Eleanor Grayson, a white woman in her late 50s, her neck draped in pearls that clack softly as she shifts her weight. Her blonde hair swept into a severe bun, and her lips purse as she taps a manicured nail against a designer watch, its diamonds catching the light. She's a socialite with a reputation for getting her way, and right now her way is the Vista Suite. Miles clears his throat, his voice clipped and dripping with fake courtesy. "Sir, there's been a mix-up. We need you to move. This cabin's reserved for a VIP passenger." He juts his chin toward Eleanor, who tilts her head as if inspecting a stain on the carpet. Darius looks up, brow furrowing, his fingers pausing, mid-keystroke. "I reserved this cabin," he says, his tone even, reaching into his pocket to pull out the platinum pass, its holographic seal shimmering as he holds it up. "I'm a platinum member. This is my spot." Miles doesn't even glance at the card. His lips twist into a sneer and he steps closer, his shadow falling across Darius's laptop. "This cabin's for real VIPs, he snaps, his voice loud enough to turn heads in the corridor beyond. Not some uppity trespasser who thinks he can buy his way in. The word uppity lands like a slap, sharp and deliberate, and a hush ripples through the nearby passengers peering through the open door. A woman in a red coat gasps, clutching her purse tighter, while a balding man in a pinstripe suit leans forward, eyes wide with curiosity. Eleanor smirks, folding her arms, her pearls glinting like tiny moons. "I've ridden this train for decades," she says, her voice smooth but edged with entitlement. "The Vista Suite's practically mine. I don't care what he paid." Darius blinks, confusion etching lines across his forehead. He's done everything by the book. Booked 6 months early, paid the steep $5,000 fee in full, arrived 30 minutes before departure. His platinum status isn't new. He's logged hundreds of trips with TransContinental. Yet here he is, his presence dissected and dismissed as if he's a stowaway. He closes his laptop with a soft click, leaning back in the seat, his dark eyes locking onto Miles. "Check your system," he says, calm but firm, pointing to the tablet dangling from Miles's belt. "My name's Darius Jackson. You'll see the reservation." Miles scoffs, a harsh bark of laughter escaping his throat, and shoves the tablet into his pocket without looking. "Don't need to check anything," he retorts, crossing his arms. "You don't fit the profile for this cabin. Move, or I'll make you." Eleanor nods approvingly, her watch ticking louder in the tense silence. Darius's jaw tightens, a muscle twitching beneath his skin, But he keeps his cool, years of navigating boardrooms and backhanded slights steadying his pulse. He's faced this before, the assumption that his skin cancels out his credentials, that his success is a fluke to be questioned. Still, this is new territory, a public shaming on a train he's ridden without issue for a decade. The passengers' stares bore into him, some sympathetic, others skeptical, their whispers buzzing like static. What's he doing there anyway? Probably a mistake. She looks more like a VIP. Darius shifts his weight, planting his feet firmly on the carpeted floor, the leather creaking beneath him. "I'm not moving," he says, his voice a low rumble, unshaken. "This is my cabin, and I've got the proof." Miles's face flushes red, a vein pulsing at his temple, and he leans in, his breath hot with coffee and contempt. "You think you're special?" he hisses, quiet enough that only Darius and Eleanor catch it. "This ain't your world, boy." The slur hangs in the air, unspoken but implied, a venomous thread weaving through his tone. Eleanor's smirk widens, and she adjusts her purse, a sleek leather clutch worth more than most people's rent. "Hurry up, Miles," she snaps, tapping her foot. "I've got a schedule to keep." The conductor straightens, cracking his knuckles, and glances toward the corridor, where a few more passengers have gathered, phones slipping out of pockets, lenses glinting like tiny eyes. Darius notices too, his mind racing. This isn't just about a seat anymore. It's a gauntlet thrown down, a challenge to his right to exist in this space. And it's only the beginning. The train lurches forward, wheels grinding against the tracks, pulling away from Chicago's skyline as the tension thickens. Miles steps back, his hand hovering over the radio clipped to his chest, his gaze darting between Darius and Eleanor. "Last chance," he warns, his voice rising to carry over the rumble of the engine. "Get up or I call security." Darius meets his stare, unflinching, his hands resting on his knees. "Call whoever you want," he replies, each word deliberate. "I'm staying." The passengers murmur louder, a mix of shock and anticipation rippling through the car. A teenage girl in a hoodie nudges her friend, whispering, "This is wild." An older man adjusts his glasses, frowning as if piecing together a puzzle. Eleanor huffs, her impatience boiling over, and slips her hand into her purse, pulling out a crisp $100 bill. She folds it neatly and tucks it into Miles's, palm with a practiced flick of her wrist, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial murmur. "Fix this," she says, her eyes glinting with malice. Miles pockets the cash, his sneer twisting into something uglier, and keys the radio. "Supervisor to Vista Suite," he barks, his tone clipped. "We've got a problem." Darius watches. The exchange, his stomach knotting as the bill disappears into Miles's uniform. It's not just prejudice now. It's a transaction, a bribe to erase him from a space he's earned. His fingers itch to grab his phone, to record this blatant corruption. But he holds back, calculating. He's not a nobody. He's built Nexus, from a one-room startup in Detroit to a global powerhouse, coding late into nights while others slept, turning grief from a childhood shadowed by loss into fuel for success. At 16, he'd buried his older brother, killed in a drive-by dismissed by police as gang trouble, and swore to rise above the stereotypes pinning him down. That promise got him here, to this cabin, to this moment. Yet all that fades. Under Miles's glare and Eleanor's cash, his worth reduced to the color of his skin. The train picks up speed, the landscape blurring outside the windows, and Darius braces himself. Whatever comes next, he's not backing down. Not today. Not ever. The TransContinental Express barrels westward, its steel belly humming as the Chicago skyline fades into a smudge of gray. Inside the Vista Suite, Darius Jackson sits firm, his navy suit creased from the leather seat, his laptop closed but buzzing, with the weight of his unfinished keynote. Miles Carter looms over him, the conductor's wiry frame taut with fury, his radio crackling as he awaits backup. Eleanor Grayson stands in the doorway, her pearls swaying with the train's rhythm, her $100 bill already warming Miles's pocket. "I'm not moving," Darius repeats, his voice a steady anchor in the storm, deep and unshaken, cutting through the static of Miles's threats. He slides his platinum pass across the table, its edges worn from years of use, a badge of his legitimacy. "Check the system," he insists, nodding at the tablet Miles clutches like a shield. The conductor's sneer deepens, his knuckles whitening around the device, but he doesn't budge, doesn't even peek at the screen. "I don't need your little card," Miles spits, his tone venomous, loud enough to bounce off the cabin's wood-paneled walls. "You're in the wrong place, and that's that." Passengers crowd the corridor, their faces a gallery of shock and intrigue, phones trembling in their hands as they capture the standoff. A woman in a red coat bites her lip, her camera angled to catch Miles's snarl. A balding man in pinstripes mutters to his wife. This is getting ugly. Darius feels their eyes, a prickling heat on his neck, but he keeps his focus on Miles, his resolve forged in decades of proving himself. He's not just some guy. He's the CEO of Nexus Innovations, a $3 billion titan he clawed into existence from a Detroit basement, coding through nights lit only by street lamp glow. Yet here, in this plush cabin, his worth's stripped bare, measured not by his empire but by the assumptions Miles and Eleanor hurl like bricks. Eleanor huffs, her voice slicing through the murmurs. "This is absurd," she snaps, her watch ticking louder, a metronome of impatience. "I paid for luxury, not a debate. With him." She flicks her wrist, slipping another crisp bill into Miles's palm, her whisper sharp as a blade. "Fix it now!" Miles pockets the cash with a grunt, his radio barking to life as a new voice cuts in. "On my way," it crackles, and within moments, Clara Henshaw storms through the door, her supervisor's badge glinting like a sheriff's star. She's a stocky woman with graying hair pulled tight, her lips a thin line of authority, her eyes narrowing as they land on Darius. "What's the holdup?" she demands, her tone dripping with command, hands planted on her hips. Miles jabs, a finger at Darius. "He won't move," he says, his voice rising. Claims this is his seat, but it's for Mrs. Grayson. Clara's gaze flicks to Eleanor, then back to Darius, sizing him up like he's a glitch in her system. "Move," she orders, stepping closer, her shadow swallowing the sunlight spilling through the windows. "Or we'll drag you out." The threat lands heavy, a promise of force that makes the teenage girl in the hoodie gasp, her phone wobbling. As she zooms in, Darius doesn't flinch. "I've got the reservation," he says, his voice calm but edged with steel, reaching into his pocket again. He pulls out his phone this time, thumbing it to life, the screen glowing as he taps the record button. "Let's get this straight," he says, holding it steady, his words clear over the train's rumble. "I paid for this seat. I'm a platinum member. You're telling me to move for her?" He nods toward Eleanor, whose smirk falters for a split second before hardening again. The red light blinks, capturing Miles's flushed face, Clara's rigid stance, the bribe-stuffed pocket bulging against the conductor's uniform. Passengers lean closer, their whispers swelling. "He's recording. Is that legal? She paid him off." Clara's eyes dart to the phone, her jaw clenching, and she lunges forward, snatching it from Darius's grip with a swift, practiced yank. "No filming allowed," she barks, her voice a whip crack, and before anyone can react, she slams the device to the floor, her heel crashing down with a sickening crunch. Glass splinters scatter across the carpet, the screen, blackening as the red light dies. The cabin erupts and gasps, a collective jolt rippling through the onlookers. The woman in the red coat stammers, "She can't do that." The balding man's jaw drops, his phone now filming Clara's smug retreat. Darius stares at the wreckage, his hands curling into fists, but his face stays composed, a mask of control hiding the fury simmering beneath. That phone held his proof, his shield against their lies, and now it's gone, crushed under Clara's boot like his dignity's next in line. Eleanor claps her hands once, a sharp, delighted sound, her pearls bouncing. "Finally," she says, stepping forward as if to claim her prize. "Let's get this sorted." Miles nods, cracking his knuckles again, his sneer back in full force. "Told you," he mutters, loud enough for Darius to hear. "You don't belong here." Clara folds her arms, her stance wide, blocking the doorway like a gatekeeper. "Last chance," she says, her voice cold. Stand up or we carry you out." Darius exhales slow, his mind racing. He's lost his phone, his evidence, but not his spine. He's faced worse. Investors who sneered at his pitch, cops who profiled him as a teen, a world that tried to box him in. This is just another fight. "I'm staying," he says, his gaze locking onto Clara's, unflinching, a quiet defiance that makes her blink first. The passengers' cameras roll on, their lenses catching every second of this brewing war. What's it like to have your rights stomped on, right in front of a crowd? Comment number 1, if you've ever been told you don't belong where. You've earned your place, and hit that like button if you're rooting for Darius to flip this mess upside down. Subscribe now to catch how he battles back against this outrage, because trust me, it's about to get wild. Clara's radio buzzes, again, her fingers twitching as she keys it, her voice tight. "Security to Vista Suite," she snaps, stepping back to let the corridor clear. Miles smirks, leaning against the wall, his bribe money crinkling in his pocket. Eleanor adjusts her purse, her smugness a palpable fog in the air. Darius sits still, his fists unclenching, his mind shifting gears. He's down a weapon, but he's not out. The train rocks gently, the planes stretching endless outside, a stark contrast to the cage closing in around him. What happens when the system you trust turns its back on you? Stick around, because the next move's gonna shock you, to your core. How far will these two push Darius before he pushes back harder? The TransContinental Express thunders across the Illinois plains, its polished exterior slicing through golden fields as dusk paints the sky in streaks of amber. Inside the Vista Suite, Darius Jackson sits rigid, his navy suit rumpled from the earlier scuffle, his smashed phone a jagged pile of glass at his feet. Clara Henshaw stands in the doorway, her supervisor's badge glinting under the cabin's soft lights, her arms crossed as she glares at Darius with icy resolve. Miles Carter lingers behind her, his wiry frame buzzing with pent-up rage, the $100 bill from Eleanor Grayson still crinkling in his pocket. Eleanor herself hovers in the corridor, her pearls swaying as she taps her designer watch, her smirk a silent taunt. The air crackles with tension, passengers' phones glowing like fireflies as they record the standoff, their murmurs a low hum beneath the train's rumble. Darius's hands rest on his knees, his dark eyes steady, refusing to yield despite the loss of his evidence. "I'm not moving," he says again, his voice a calm thunder, echoing the defiance that's carried him from Detroit's shadows to Nexus Innovations' helm. Clara's radio spits static, a garbled voice cutting through, and her lips tighten as she listens. "Understood," she snaps, clipping it back to her belt, her gaze flicking to Miles. "Hold tight," she mutters, then strides out, her boots thudding against the carpet. Minutes tick by, the train's rhythm a relentless pulse, and the passengers' whispers grow louder, speculation swirling. They're gonna drag him out. He's got rights, doesn't he? The woman in the red coat shifts nervously, her camera still rolling, while the balding man in pinstripes scribbles notes on a napkin, his brow furrowed. Darius keeps his posture firm, his mind racing through options, his destroyed phone a fresh wound but not a fatal one. He's faced boardroom ambushes tougher than this. He'll find a way. Then, a commotion erupts outside the cabin, voices rising over the engine's drone, and Clara storms back in, her face flushed, a phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, sir," she says, her tone clipped. "Right now." She hangs up, her eyes darting, to Miles, then Darius, a flicker of unease breaking her stone facade. "Step aside," she barks at Miles, who blinks, confused, his sneer faltering. "What?" he stammers, but Clara's already moving, her hand raised to silence him. "Orders from the top," she says, her voice flat but strained. "You're done, all of you." She turns to the corridor, where two stewards who'd hovered earlier now freeze, their faces paling. "Pack your stuff. You're fired." The words hit like a thunderclap, and the passengers gasp, a wave of shock rippling through the car. Miles's jaw drops, his fists clenching as he sputters. "Fired? For what?" Clara ignores him, her gaze shifting to Darius, a grudging nod her only acknowledgement. "Mr. Jackson," she says, her tone stiff. You're reinstated. Stay put. She pivots and marches out, dragging Miles and the stewards with her, their protests swallowed by the growing buzz of the crowd. The woman in red exhales. Unbelievable. Her phone dipping as she processes the twist. The teenage girl in the hoodie grins, whispering, "He won!" Darius leans back, the leather creaking beneath him, a slow breath escaping his lips. His suite's his again, the panoramic windows framing a sunset that bathes the cabin in warm gold. He brushes glass fragments off the table, his mind settling as the passengers' chatter turns to cheers. A man in a gray blazer claps, calling, "Out! Justice served!" Darius nods faintly, a flicker of relief softening his features. He's beaten them, or so he thinks, the firing a swift slap to Miles and Clara's arrogance. He pulls his laptop closer, flipping it open, ready to dive back into his keynote, the summit in Los Angeles looming closer with every mile. The train's rhythm steadies his pulse, the victory a balm after the raw sting of humiliation. He's Darius Jackson, CEO, not some nobody to be shoved aside, and they've learned that the hard way. The cabin feels like his again, the cedar scent sharper, the space reclaimed. But as he types, a shadow shifts in the corridor, unnoticed, a whisper, slipping through the cracks. Across the car, Eleanor Grayson lingers, her pearls glinting in the dimming light, her smirk unshaken despite the crew's ousting. She leans against a velvet-lined wall, her eyes locked on Darius through the glass. A predator sizing up prey. She slips her phone from her purse, her fingers dancing across the screen, and dials a number, her voice a low purr as someone answers. "Leonard," she says, her tone smooth as silk. "It's me." They fired the grunts, but he's still here. A pause, then a chuckle. "No, we're not done. Teach him a lesson he won't forget." She hangs up, tucking the phone away, her gaze never leaving Darius. The train rolls into the night, stars pricking the sky, and in the dining car, Leonard Price emerges from the shadows, a hulking figure in a crisp manager's uniform, his buzzed, hair and scarred knuckles hinting at a past rougher than the rails. He's an ex-cop, 6'4", with a jaw like concrete and a grudge against anyone who dares challenge the order he enforces. His eyes, cold and gray, fix on the Vista suite, a plan forming behind them. Leonard's no stranger to TransContinental's elite. He's climbed from baggage handler to train manager by bowing to the right people, Eleanor among them. Her call's a green light, and he's itching to flex his muscle. He cracks his neck, a slow, deliberate pop, and mutters to a passing steward, "Spread the word. That guy in the suite? He's trouble." The steward nods, scurrying off, and Leonard strides toward the staff room, his boots heavy on the polished floor. He's got sway here, more than Clara ever did, his authority a blunt instrument he wields without hesitation. The firing? A PR stunt, a slap on the wrist to appease the viral videos now hitting 10,000 views online, passengers uploading shaky footage of Clara's heel-crushing Darius's phone. Leonard scoffs at the screen on his own tablet, the comments piling. Racist jerks. He deserves that seat." To him, it's noise. Darius is a threat, a black man who didn't bend, and Leonard's not about to let that stand. Back in the Vista suite, Darius taps away, oblivious to the storm brewing beyond the glass. The passengers' cheers fade as they drift to their seats, the car settling into a false calm. He thinks it's over, the crew's dismissal a clean break, a lesson taught. His fingers fly across the keys, the summit speech taking shape, a vision of AI that levels playing fields, born from his own climb out of nothing. At 16, he'd sworn over his brother's grave to rewrite the rules, and Nexus is proof he's done it. This train, this cabin, it's his turf now, or so he believes. But Leonard's shadow looms closer, his plan whispered among the staff. He's not one of us. Eleanor watches from her perch, her smirk widening as she sips a martini, the olive bobbing in the glass like a tiny trophy. The firing was just the opening act, a distraction to lull Darius into ease. The real fight's brewing, a hammer waiting to drop, and he doesn't see it coming. The train barrels toward St. Louis, the tracks clattering beneath, and Leonard gathers a handful of loyal crew in a cramped back room, his voice a low growl. He thinks he's won, he says, his scarred fist tapping the table. We'll show him he's nothing. A steward nods. Another cracks a grin, and the plot thickens, a noose tightening around Darius's fleeting triumph. The Vista Suite's windows glow against the night, a beacon of calm in a car about to erupt. Darius types on, the words flowing, his guard down for the first time since Chicago. He's beaten the small fry, but the big fish are circling, and they're hungry for blood. The TransContinental Express slices through the Missouri night, its silver cars gleaming under a crescent moon as it nears St. Louis. The gateway arch, a distant shimmer on the horizon. Inside the Vista Suite, Darius Jackson leans into his work, the glow of his laptop screen casting sharp angles across his face, his navy suit still crisp despite the day's battles. The cabin's a sanctuary again, its cedar scent mingling with the faint musk of leather, the panoramic windows framing a star-dotted sky. His fingers dance across the keys, refining his Los Angeles summit speech, a blueprint for AI that dismantles, bias born from a life spent shattering ceilings. The firing of Miles, Clara, and the stewards feels like a clean win. They're ousting a rare moment where justice punched back fast. He doesn't hear the whispers snaking through the train. Doesn't see the trap tightening around him. Outside, the car hums with a deceptive calm, passengers dozing or scrolling, the earlier chaos fading into murmurs of good for him. And they had it coming. In the dining car, Leonard Price prowls like a wolf, his hulking frame dwarfing. The velvet booths, his manager's uniform stretched tight over muscle earned in bar brawls and precinct gyms. His buzzed hair catches the chandelier light, his scarred knuckles flexing as he mutters to a knot of crew, their eyes glinting with loyalty. "He's a fake," Leonard growls, his voice a gravelly rasp, tossing a crumpled paper onto the table. It's a forged document, cooked up in the staff room's printer, claiming Darius's platinum pass is a counterfeit, his reservation a glitch. "Spread it," he orders, his gray eyes cold as steel. "Make sure everyone knows he scammed his way in." A steward with a patchy beard nods, pocketing the paper, while another, a wiry kid with nervous hands, darts off to whisper it down the line. Leonard's no grunt like Miles. He's the train's puppet master, a man who bends rules and breaks spines, and Eleanor Grayson's call has lit a fire under him. She sits 2 booths away, swirling a martini, her pearls clicking as she nods approval, her smirk a silent command. Bury him. The rumor spreads like wildfire, crackling through the cars, twisting truth into poison. By the time the train slows into St. Louis, the story's taken root. Darius Jackson, the guy who got the crew fired, isn't a platinum member after all. Passengers who'd cheered him now squint with doubt, their phones buzzing with the forged doc shared via airdrop, its blurry logo and fake timestamp convincing enough in the dim light. The woman in the red coat frowns, scrolling, muttering, "This can't be right." The balding man in pinstripes shakes his head. Thought he was legit. The teenage girl in the hoodie shrugs. Maybe he's a con. Darius, lost in his work, doesn't feel the shift, doesn't see the tide turning. The train jolts to a stop, brakes squealing, and Leonard moves, his boots thudding with purpose, 2 security guards trailing him like hounds. They're beefy, guys in black polos, ex-bouncers with thick necks and blank stares, hired muscle who don't ask questions. Leonard bursts into the Vista Suite, the door slamming open with a bang that snaps Darius's head up, his laptop wobbling on the table. "Darius Jackson," Leonard booms, his voice filling the cabin like a gunshot. "You're under arrest for fraud." He holds up the forged paper, waving it like a warrant, his scarred fist trembling with glee. "This says your ticket's bogus. You think you can scam your way into luxury?" Before Darius can speak, Leonard lunges, slamming him against the cabin wall, the wood creaking under the force. Darius's breath catches, pain blooming in his shoulder as his suit jacket rips at the seam. "What the hell?" he chokes out, shoving back, but the guards grab his arms, wrenching them behind him, cold metal cuffs snapping shut with a click. Passengers crowd the doorway, phones out, filming the takedown, their gasps a chorus of confusion. "He's a fraud? No way! They've got proof!" Leonard towers over Darius, his concrete jaw set, his eyes glinting with triumph. "You don't belong here," he snarls, shoving the forged doc in Darius's face, the ink smudged but damning. "Thought you could play us? You're done." Darius struggles, his voice steady despite the cuffs biting his wrists. "That's fake," he says, his gaze locking onto Leonard's. "Check the real system. I'm legit." Leonard laughs, a harsh barking sound, and kicks Darius's laptop off the table, its screen cracking as it hits the floor. "No one's checking anything," he snaps, nodding to the guards. "Take him." They haul Darius up, his feet dragging. As they pull him into the corridor, passengers parting like a sea, their cameras rolling. The woman in red hesitates, her lens catching Leonard's smirk, but doubt clouds her face. The balding man mutters, "Guess he fooled us." Eleanor steps forward, her heels clicking, her pearls bouncing as she claps slowly, a gleeful rhythm that echoes through the car. "About time," she says, her voice dripping with satisfaction, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "I knew he didn't belong." The guards shove Darius toward the train's holding cell, a cramped, windowless box at the rear, its steel door rusted from years of use. They toss him in, his shoulders slamming against the wall, the cuffs rattling as he steadies himself. The door clangs shut, the lock turning with a heavy thud, and Leonard peers through the bars, his breath fogging the air. "Enjoy the ride," he says, his grin feral, then spins away, leaving Darius in the dark, the faint rumble of the train his only company. The cell stinks of stale sweat and metal, a flickering bulb overhead casting jagged shadows across the floor. Darius sinks onto a dented bench, his mind reeling, pain pulsing through his arm. The firing was a mirage, a cheap trick to quiet the crowd while Leonard built this cage. He's been framed, his platinum status twisted into a lie, his dignity shredded in front of strangers who now see a criminal, not a CEO. His laptop's trashed, his speech half-written, the summit slipping further away. But he's not broken. Not yet. He's faced worse. A brother's murder shrugged off by cops, a startup nearly crushed by skeptics, a world that bets against him. This is just another wall to climb. He flexes his cuffed hands, feeling the metal bite, and scans the cell, his eyes narrowing. There's a way out. Always is. Outside, the train pulls out of St. Louis, the arch fading into the night, and Leonard struts back to Eleanor, his chest puffed. "He's gone," he says, cracking his knuckles. She nods, sipping, her martini, the olive sinking in the glass. "Good," she murmurs, her smirk a blade honed sharp. The passengers settle, their phones buzzing with the new narrative. Darius, the fraud, got what he deserved. The woman in red tucks her device away, conflicted but silent. The balding man scribbles more notes, satisfied with the twist. The teenage girl shrugs, already bored, scrolling for something new. The viral videos shift, comments flipping from support to scorn. "Scammer. Knew he was shady." Darius hears none of it. His world shrunk to the cell's cold walls, his mind racing to unravel Leonard's game. He's down, humiliated, cuffed like a thief, but he's not out. Not by a long shot. The train barrels on, the night deepening, and the trap's only half sprung, the real blow still coiled, waiting to strike. The TransContinental Express rumbles through the Missouri darkness, its steel wheels grinding against the tracks, a relentless beast carrying Darius Jackson deeper into a nightmare. He sits in the holding cell, a dank steel box at the train's tail, the air thick with the sour tang of rust and despair. His navy suit hangs torn at the shoulder, cuffs biting into his wrists, the bench beneath him cold and dented from years of forgotten prisoners. The flickering bulb overhead buzzes like a trapped fly, casting his shadow in jagged spikes across the walls. Leonard Price's frame-up has landed hard, a forged document branding him a fraud, a public arrest that turned cheers to jeers, his laptop shattered, his dignity caged. Passengers beyond the door, once allies, now scroll through viral lies, their phones lighting up with "Scammer got caught and knew he didn't belong." But Darius isn't broken. He's a survivor, forged in Detroit's grit, a man who turned a brother's grave into a billion-dollar empire. This cell, it's just another hurdle. He shifts, the cuffs clanking, and listens. Voices drift through the steel, muffled but sharp, Leonard's growl cutting above the rest. "Planted it clean," he brags, his boots pacing outside, a steward chuckling in reply. Eleanor's cash made it easy. Darius's jaw tightens, his mind snapping into gear. They've overplayed their hand, let arrogance slip through the cracks. He flexes his wrists, feeling the weight of his smartwatch, a sleek black band he'd kept hidden under his sleeve. It's no phone, but it's enough. He taps it awake with a subtle twist, the screen glowing faint, and opens a text app. His fingers clumsy but sure. Nadia, he types, his COO's name a lifeline. Framed. Need legal now. Kansas City, stop. He hits send, the message pinging into the ether, and leans back, his breath steadying. Nadia Brooks, his right hand at Nexus Innovations, is a bulldog in a boardroom, a sister in spirit who's never let him down. She'll move fast. The train barrels on, the night stretching endless, and Darius waits, his pulse sinking with the clatter of the rails. He's got no proof in hand, his phone a pile of glass back in the Vista suite, but he's got his head, his will, and a team that's faced worse. At 16, he'd hacked his first system to expose a crooked landlord. At 30, he'd outsmarted venture capitalists who laughed at his pitch. Leonard's a thug with a badge, Eleanor's a spoiled puppet, but Darius is a strategist and he's not done. The cell's walls close in, the bulb flickering faster, and he hears Leonard's boots retreat, the steward's laughter fading. Outside, the train slows, brakes hissing as it nears Kansas City. The next stop, a faint hope glowing in the distance. He closes his eyes, picturing Nadia's response, her sharp mind already spinning wheels. The cuffs chafe, but he ignores them, his focus razor-edged. Hours later, the train jolts into Kansas City, the platform a blur of lights through the cell's tiny vent. Footsteps echo, heavy and hurried, and the door swings open, Leonard's bulk filling the frame. "Time's up," he snarls, but his smirk falters as a woman steps past him, her heels clicking with authority. She's tall, her braids pulled tight, her gray suit pristine, a briefcase in one hand and a tablet in the other. "Darius Jackson?" she says, her voice crisp, cutting through Leonard's bluster. "I'm Tanya Reed, your counsel." Leonard blinks, his scarred fist twitching, but Tanya's already flashing a stack of papers, Nexus's logo bold on the letterhead. "This is his real reservation," she says, shoving it at Leonard. "Verified by TransContinental's central office. Your proof is trash." Darius stands, his torn suit a badge of defiance, and meets Tanya's gaze, a silent. Not passing between them, Nadia's delivered. Leonard snatches the papers, his eyes scanning, his face reddening as the guards shift uncomfortably behind him. "Bull," he mutters. But Tanya's tablet lights up with a live feed, Nadia's face on screen, her voice icy. "We've got the original booking time-stamped 6 months ago, plus Darius's platinum history. Release him or we sue TransContinental into the ground." The guards hesitate, then unlock the cuffs, the metal clattering to the floor as Darius rubs his wrists, his shoulders squaring. Leonard's jaw clenches, his gray eyes blazing, but he steps back, outmaneuvered. Tanya hands Darius a new phone, her lips curling faintly. "Let's make this right," she says, and he nods, stepping out, the passengers gaping as he strides back to the Vista suite, Tanya at his side. The woman in the red coat cheers, her phone up. "He's free!" The balding man nods, scribbling faster. The teenage girl grins. "Told you he'd win." Darius reclaims his cabin, the cedar scent washing over him, the windows framing a city skyline as the train idles. Tanya sets up a tripod, her camera rolling, and Darius faces it, his voice steady. "I was framed," he says, holding up the real reservation, by a manager who took a bribe to lock me up. "This ends now." He posts it live, the video hitting 1 million views in minutes, passengers crowding the corridor, their cheers drowning out the engine's hum. Leonard watches from the shadows, his fists balled, and storms off, slamming a door. Tanya claps Darius's shoulder. "They'll pay." And he nods, sinking into the leather, the victory sweet but fragile. The train lurches forward, pulling, out of Kansas City, and a steward slips a note under the door, the paper trembling in his hand. Darius unfolds it, his eyes narrowing at the scrawl. "This isn't over, boy." Leonard's handwriting, a promise of worse to come. What's it feel like to claw your way out of a trap, only to know the wolves are still circling? Comment number 1 if you think Darius deserves to bury these creeps for good, and smash that like button if you're cheering his comeback. Subscribe now to see how he turns this win into their nightmare, because this train's about to hit a whole new level of crazy. Ever been backed into a corner and fought your way out? Tell us below, because Darius isn't slowing down. But what happens when a thug like Leonard won't quit? Stick around, because the next twist's gonna flip everything you thought you knew. The TransContinental Express charges through the Colorado night, its silver cars cutting a path toward Denver, the Rockies looming like silent giants under a star-crusted sky. Inside the Vista suite, Darius Jackson sits, his torn navy suit a testament to his battles, his new phone buzzing with notifications as his live video racks up millions of views. The cedar-scented cabin feels like a fortress again, its panoramic windows framing a moonlit plains-to-peaks transition, the leather seat creaking as he leans back. Tanya Reed, his lawyer, has just left for her own compartment, her briefcase of evidence a shield that freed him from Leonard Price's frame-up. The note, "This isn't over, boy," sits crumpled on the table, a taunt from the train manager that Darius brushes off as empty bravado. He's beaten them twice now. The crew's firing, the cells release. His fingers hover over his laptop's cracked screen, salvaged but flickering as he tweaks his summit speech, the words a lifeline to normalcy. The train's hum soothes him, a rhythm he's starting to trust again, unaware that the wolves are already at the door. Outside, Leonard Price stalks the corridors, his hulking frame a shadow among the velvet curtains, his manager's uniform wrinkled from pacing. His gray eyes burn with a fury stoked by Darius's escape, his scarred knuckles flexing as he mutters, into a burner phone. "Denver, stop," he growls. "Bring the crew." On the other end, a gruff voice confirms, and Leonard snaps it shut, his jaw set like a trap ready to spring. He's called in a favor from his old life, a pack of off-duty rail workers who owe him from barroom bets and back-alley brawls. They're Eleanor Grayson's friends, a roughneck posse she's bankrolled to keep her world pristine, and they're itching for a fight. Eleanor herself lounges in the dining car, her martini glass half empty, her pearls glinting as she nods to Leonard across the room, her smirk a silent order. Finish him. The train slows, brakes hissing as it pulls. Into Denver, the platform a blur of sodium lights and late-night stragglers. The Vista Suite's door explodes inward with a splintering crash, and Darius jolts up, his laptop tumbling as Leonard storms in, flanked by 5 brutes in flannel and steel-toed boots. Their faces are weathered, eyes wild with booze and hate, fists already balled. "Time to learn your place," Leonard snarls, his voice a guttural roar, and he swings, his scarred fist slamming into Darius's jaw with a crack that echoes off the wood panels. Pain blooms hot and sharp, blood trickling from Darius's lip as he staggers, but the others pile on, a blur of fists and boots. One smashes his laptop against the table, plastic shattering, keys flying like shrapnel. Another grabs a can of spray paint from a duffel, scrawling "Go back" in jagged red letters across the cabin's walls, the acrid fumes stinging Darius's eyes. "You don't ride here!" A wiry guy with a buzz cut bellows, kicking Darius's ribs, the blow knocking. The wind from him as he crumples to the carpet. Passengers scream, crowding the corridor, phones trembling as they capture the assault. The woman in the red coat yells, "Stop it!" Her camera rolling, the live stream spiking to 10 million views in minutes as hashtags flare. Train attack. Justice for Darius. The balding man in pinstripes ducks back, his napkin notes forgotten, while the teenage girl in the hoodie films through tears. "They're gonna kill him." Darius fights, swinging a wild elbow that catches a thug's nose, blood spurting, but there's too many. Leonard grabs his collar, slamming him against the window, glass cracking under the force. The moonlit peaks a cruel backdrop. "Think you're tough?" Leonard spits, his breath sour with whiskey, and drives a knee into Darius's gut, doubling him over. The spray paint drips, red streaks pooling on the floor, a grotesque mural of their rage. Another thug stomps on, Darius's hand, bones grinding, pain searing up his arm as he bites back a yell. The assault's a tornado, relentless and raw, The cabin trashed. Darius bloodied, but unbroken. His suits shredded, his face swelling, but his eyes burn, locking onto Leonard's with a defiance that makes the manager pause. "You're done," Leonard hisses, stepping back, wiping blood from his knuckles as the crew retreats, their laughter echoing. They vanish into the Denver night, the platform swallowing them as the train idles, passengers gaping in horror. Darius slumps, breath ragged, blood staining the carpet, his body screaming but his mind racing. He's alive barely, and that's enough. The woman in red rushes in. "Oh my God, are you okay?" But he waves her off, pulling himself up. Every move a knife twist. The live stream's a wildfire now, comments flooding. "This is sick." "Where's security?" TransContinental switchboard lights up, execs scrambling as the CEO, Victor Langston, watches from New York, his face ashen. Victor slams his desk, barking into a phone. "Suspend Price now!" The order crackles through, and Leonard's badge is yanked via radio, his suspension immediate. He laughs it off, tossing the device into a trash bin as he texts Eleanor, from a bar 2 blocks away. He's done. She smirks over her martini, texting back, "Perfect." But Darius, bruised and battered, isn't finished. He grabs the woman's phone, his voice hoarse but steady. "Keep filming." He staggers to the table, snagging Leonard's dropped burner, its call log a goldmine. "I'm suing," he rasps, blood dripping onto the screen, "for everything they've got." The crowd cheers, weak but growing, the teenage girl clapping, "You've got this." He sinks into the seat, pain pulsing, but his resolve's iron. He's hit rock bottom, or so he thinks, the summit slipping further, his body a wreck. But the next twist's lurking, a shadow he can't yet see. The train pulls out of Denver, the Rockies fading, and Darius clutches the burner, his swollen hand trembling. He's faced death before. His brother's murder at 16. A gunshot that stole his family's heart and lit his fire. This beating? It's personal, a racist gauntlet thrown to crush him, but he's still standing. Leonard's suspension's a slap, not a kill. And Eleanor's cash fuels a war that's far from over. The cabin's a crime scene, paint dripping, glass crunching underfoot. But Darius's eyes gleam, plotting. He's got evidence now, a thread to pull, and he'll unravel them all. The passengers watch, some tending his cuts, others filming, the story metastasizing online. He thinks he survived the worst, but the hammer's still falling, the real blow coiled tight, ready to strike. The TransContinental Express barrels through the Colorado darkness, its wheels clattering over the tracks as it races westward, the Rockies' jagged peaks fading into a black void. Inside the Vista Suite, Darius Jackson slumps in the leather seat, his torn navy suit soaked with sweat and blood, his face a swollen mask of bruises from Leonard Price's ambush. The cabin's a war zone. Red spray paint drips down the walls, spelling "Go back" in jagged streaks. Shattered glass glints on the carpet, and his cracked laptop flickers faintly on the table. His ribs ache with every breath. His hand throbs where a thug's boot crushed it, but his eyes burn with a fire that pain can't douse. Leonard's burner phone sits in his grip, its call log a lifeline, proof of the manager's plot with Eleanor Grayson. Passengers hover outside, their faces a mix of pity and awe, the woman in the red coat tending his cuts with a damp cloth, murmuring, "You're tough as hell." The teenage girl in the hoodie nods, her phone still filming, the live stream now at 15 million views, a wildfire of outrage scorching the internet. Darius's lawsuit's already in motion, Tanya Reed's voice crackling through his new phone as she files from Kansas City. "We've got them," she says, her tone sharp. "Assault, conspiracy, the works, Leonard's toast." He nods, wincing as the cloth presses a gash on his cheek and rasps, "Good. Push it hard." The train's hum steadies him, the cedar scent cutting through the paint's acrid bite, a faint anchor in the chaos. TransContinental's CEO, Victor Langston, suspended Leonard hours ago, a panicked move as the viral video tanks the company's stock by 10% overnight. Darius feels the tide turning, his resolve hardening with every ache. He's Nexus Innovations' king, a $3 billion empire built from nothing, and he'll bury these bigots in court. The woman in red steps back. "You're set," and he manages a grim smile. The first since Chicago. He's winning, or so he believes. The burner's evidence a dagger aimed at Leonard's heart. But the train rolls on, and in a Denver courtroom, shadows shift. Eleanor Grayson, her pearls traded for a sleek black blazer, sits in a judge's chambers, her checkbook open, $1 million scrawled in elegant cursive. Judge Harlan Voss, a gray-haired relic with a taste for bourbon and power, pockets the bribe with a grunt, his gavel already sold. She's no mere socialite. She's a silent partner in TransContinental, holding 15% of its stock, a secret stake that's kept her untouchable. "Toss the case," she says, her voice smooth as venom. "And fine him. Make it hurt." Voss nods, his jowls quivering, and by morning, the ruling drops like a bomb. Darius's lawsuit's dismissed, false claims the official line, and he's slapped with a $500,000 penalty for wasting judicial time. The news hits the train's Wi-Fi, passengers gasping as their phones ping, the balding man in pinstripes muttering, "This can't be legal." The woman in red frowns. "They bought the judge?" Darius stares at the screen, his swollen hand, trembling, disbelief clawing his gut. "Dismissed," he whispers, the word a punch to his bruised ribs. Tanya calls, her voice tight. "It's rigged, Darius. We're appealing, but this stinks of cash." He slams the phone down, the crack echoing in the trashed cabin, his victory snatched by Eleanor's wealth. The passenger's support crumbles, doubt seeping in like damp rot. The teenage girl lowers her phone. Maybe he pushed too hard? The balding man nods. Courts don't lie, do they? Even the woman in red hesitates, her cloth dropping, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. Darius feels the shift, a tide pulling allies under, his isolation a fresh wound. He's alone again. The train a cage of whispers. His empire's edge, blunted by a system he can't outrun. He built Nexus to rewrite rules, but here, money trumps truth, and he's the fool who believed otherwise. Back at Nexus headquarters in Detroit, Nadia Brooks paces her office, her braids swinging as she dials the board. "We've got a problem," she says, her voice a razor. "Darius is getting hammered." The line crackles, and a board member, Carl Hensley, coughs. "He's a liability now. That fine, the videos, it's tanking our image." Nadia snaps. "He's the damn CEO, Carl. He's fighting racists." But the murmurs grow, a chorus of doubt. Stocks dipping. Clients are jittery. Maybe he's not worth it. She hangs up, her fists clenched, but the damage spreads. By noon, the board votes in secret, a knife in Darius's back. They're freezing his projects, sidelining him until the mess clears. Nadia calls him, her voice breaking. "They've turned, Darius. I tried." He sinks deeper into the seat, the leather cold against his battered frame, the betrayal a heavier blow than Leonard's fists. The train pulls into a desolate Utah stop, the platform a windswept slab under a gray dawn. Leonard's there, free despite suspension. His hulking figure leaning against a lamppost, a cigarette glowing in his scarred hand. He's dodged arrest, the judge is ruling a shield Eleanor bought, and he strides toward the Vista suite, his boots crunching gravel. Passengers scatter as he boards, his gray eyes locking onto Darius through the cracked window. "Money talks, louder than your kind," he taunts, his voice a low growl, loud enough for the lingering crowd to hear. "Court says you're a liar, and I'm still here." He spits on the platform, a wet splat, and saunters off, his laughter a blade twisting in Darius's chest. The woman in red turns away. Guess he lost, and the teenage girl shrugs, pocketing her phone. The balding man scribbles, "Justice is dead, his faith gone." Darius stares at Leonard's retreating back, his swollen hand curling into a fist, pain shooting up his arm. He's lost the lawsuit, his allies, his board's trust, all in hours. The burner phone's still his, but its proof feels flimsy now, drowned by Eleanor's cash and a judge's greed. He's Nexus's king, but the crown's slipping, his summit speech a distant dream, his body a roadmap of bruises. At 16, he'd sworn to rise above, coding through grief to build something unbreakable. But this is a system rigged to crush him, and it's winning. The train lurches forward, the Utah plain stretching bleak and endless, and he leans, his head against the wall, paint flakes sticking to his hair. He's down, bleeding, betrayed, but not out. He's got one play left, a desperate spark in the dark, and he'll burn them with it. The cabin's a tomb, but his mind's alive, plotting, the next fight already brewing. The TransContinental Express slices through the Utah desert, its steel hull a silver streak against the sun-scorched sands, dawn breaking in a blaze of orange and pink. Inside the Vista suite, Darius Jackson sits battered, his torn navy suit, clinging to his bruised frame, blood crusted on his swollen lip, his cracked laptop flickering like a dying star. The cabin's a ruin. Go Back drips in red paint down the walls, glass shards crunch underfoot, and Leonard Price's burner phone rests in his trembling hand, its call log a faint lifeline. The judge's ruling, lawsuit tossed, $500,000 fined, echoes in his skull, Eleanor Grayson's $1 million bribe a gut punch that's turned allies to dust. His boards sidelined him, Nadia's voice still rings with defeat. They've turned, and passengers who once cheered now whisper, he's finished. The woman in the red coat's gone silent, the balding man's faith shattered, the teenage girl's phone dark. Darius is a pariah, alone in a cedar-scented tomb. The trains hum a mocking lullaby. But he's not done. He's Nexus Innovations, architect, a $3 billion titan built from Detroit's ashes, a man who coded through grief at 16 to defy a world that wrote him off. This betrayal? It's fuel. He pulls a burner laptop from his bag, a backup he'd stashed for emergencies, its sleek black shell unscathed. His swollen hand throbs as he powers it up, the screen glowing sharp, and he hacks into TransContinental servers, fingers flying despite the pain. He's no amateur. He's breached systems tougher than this, exposing cheats who thought they'd won. Leonard's burner gave him a thread, Eleanor's number, and he follows it, cracking passwords, sifting data, until he hits gold. An email chain between Eleanor and Judge Harlan Voss, timestamped last night. 1 million to kill the case, she wrote, Voss replying, done. Darius's breath catches, a grim smile splitting his busted lip. He's got them. He bundles the emails, encrypts them, and leaks them to a whistleblower site, his VPN masking the trail. The upload's live in minutes, and he watches the views climb, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million in hours, as news outlets snatch it up, headlines screaming, TransContinental partner bribes judge. CEO framed. The train's Wi-Fi buzzes, passengers gasping as their phones light up, the woman in red whispering, he's fighting back. The balding man nods. This changes everything, scribbling furiously. The teenage girl grins. Knew he wasn't a fraud. Darius leans back, the leather creaking, his ribs screaming but the tide's shifting. Voss resigns by noon, a terse statement citing personal reasons, his career torched. Leonard's rearrested in Utah, cops swarming his bar hideout. His suspension now a handcuff reality. TransContinental stock plummets 30%, execs in New York scrambling as Victor Langston slams his desk. How did he do this? Darius's phone pings, Nadia's voice bursting through, you're a genius, the board's backtracking, stock's rebounding. He nods, pain lancing his jaw. Keep pushing. The passengers rally, crowding the corridor. Their cheers, a faint echo of Chicago's support, the woman in red clapping, you're unstoppable. He thinks he's won again, the leak a masterstroke, his empire's edge restored. The cabin's still a wreck, but it's his, the windows framing a desert sunrise that feels like a promise. He's beaten the bribe, exposed the rot, turned the tables with a hacker's finesse. At 16, he'd sworn to rewrite the rules, and here's proof. He's still standing, bloodied but unbowed. The train rolls on, the summit closer, his speech a phoenix rising from the ashes. But victory's a mirage and Eleanor's not done. In a Denver penthouse, Eleanor Grayson watches the news, her martini glass shattering in her grip as Voss's resignation flashes across the screen. Her pearls are gone, her black blazer wrinkled, her face a mask of rage. She's lost a judge, a manager, 15% of TransContinental's value, but she's not broken. She dials a private investigator, a sleazy ex-cop named Vince Rawls, his voice a rasp over the line. "Dig up everything on Jackson," she hisses. "I want him buried." Rawls grunts. Got it. And by dusk, he's unearthed a sealed juvie, record from Darius's past. A petty theft charge at 14, a desperate grab for food after his brother's death, expunged but not erased. Eleanor smirks, leaking it to tabloids with a twist. Tech CEO's criminal past exposed. The story hits as the train nears Nevada, passengers' phones buzzing anew, the balding man muttering, "A thief?" The woman in red frowns. This feels off. But doubt creeps back, a poison seeping through the cracks. Darius stares at the headline, his swollen hand freezing mid-type, his gut twisting as the past he'd buried resurfaces. "Career criminal," the article screeches, painting his teenage hunger as a lifelong scam. Nexus, a house of cards. The teenage girl lowers her phone. "Is this true?" The crowd thins, whispers turning sharp. "He fooled us again." No wonder he fought dirty. He slams the laptop shut, the crack echoing, his breath ragged. Eleanor's counters a sledgehammer, smashing his win into shards, his character the new battlefield. He's exposed her corruption, but she's turned his survival into a sin, a racist lie that sticks like tar. The train's hum mocks him now, the desert stretching endless, his empire teetering as the summit looms. He's down again. The leak, a fleeting high, and she's hit harder, twisting his life into her weapon. Ever had a win ripped away by a cheap shot? Comment number 1 if you think Darius should burn these snakes to the ground, and hit that like button if you're raging at Eleanor's dirty play. Subscribe now to see how he claws back from this gut punch, because this roller coaster's nowhere near done. Ever faced a lie that turned your world upside down? Tell us below, because Darius is fighting for his soul. But what happens when your past becomes their ammo? Buckle up, because the next curve's gonna leave you speechless. The TransContinental Express barrels through the Nevada desert, its silver skin shimmering under a relentless noon sun. The horizon a hazy blur of sand and heat. Inside the Vista suite, Darius Jackson sits battered, his torn navy suit a blood-streaked rag, his swollen face a roadmap of Leonard Price's ambush, his cracked laptop flickering with the last gasps of his summit speech. The cabin's a wreckage. Red paint screams "Go back" across the walls. Glass shards glitter on the carpet, and Eleanor Grayson's latest blow, the leaked juvie record, burns in his mind. Tech CEO's criminal past exposed. The tabloids shriek, twisting a 14-year-old theft into a lifelong con. Nexus Innovations a fraud's empire. His hack exposed her bribe, sent Judge Voss packing, and landed Leonard in cuffs. But she's turned his past into a guillotine, and the blades falling fast. Passengers who rallied hours ago now drift away, their phones buzzing with the smear, whispers cutting sharp. He's a crook. Always knew it. Darius stares at the headline, his swollen hand trembling, rage and despair warring in his chest. He's Nexus's king, a $3 billion titan built from Detroit's dirt. A man who swore at 16 to rise above a brother's grave. But Eleanor's hits nuclear, a racist lie that's metastasized overnight. News outlets pile on, anchors sneering, "From thief to CEO, a conman's tale." Their graphics flashing his juvie mugshot, a scrawny kid with haunted eyes, next to Nexus's logo. Social media erupts, 50 million views by lunch. Hashtags like "Our criminal CEO" trending as trolls feast. Lock him up. Fraud in first class. The train's Wi-Fi groans under the load, passengers gaping at their screens, the woman endowing the red coat muttering, "This can't be all true," her faith fraying. The balding man in pinstripes nods, explains the fight. His napkin notes now a condemnation. The teenage girl in the hoodie shrugs. Guess he's done. Her phone dark. TransContinental seizes the moment, their PR machine roaring to life. A terse email hits Darius's inbox. "Due to your documented history of deceit, you're banned for life from all services, effective immediately." The words sting worse than Leonard's fists, his platinum status ash, his sanctuary on this train yanked away. He slams the laptop shut, the crack echoing, his breath ragged as the desert stretches endless outside. But the real blow lands at Nexus headquarters in Detroit, where Nadia Brooks watches in horror as investors bolt. $2 billion vanish from the company's value in hours, stocks plummeting as clients, banks, tech giants, retailers pull contracts. Their emails curt. "We can't associate with this." Nadia calls, her voice shaking. "Darius, they're gutting us. The board's in panic." He grips the phone. "Hold them off." But the line's already dead, his empire bleeding out. The train screeches into a dusty Nevada stop, the platform a sun-baked slab ringed by sagebrush, and Leonard Price emerges from the shadows, out on bail despite his arrest, his hulking frame swaggering free. Eleanor's cash greased the wheels. Again, a judge's signature, a cheap buy, and he's rallied a mob. 20 rail workers and locals, their faces twisted with hate, fists clutching bricks and pipes. "Thieves don't ride first class," Leonard bellows, his gray eyes glinting. As he storms the Vista Suites window, the crowd roaring behind him. A brick sails through, glass exploding inward, shards slicing Darius's cheek as he ducks, blood dripping onto the carpet. "Get him!" A wiry guy with a goatee yells, hurling another, the frame splintering as the mob presses closer. Their chants a feral howl. "Out, out, out!" Darius scrambles back, his ribs screaming, and barricades the door with the table, its legs wobbling under paint cans and debris. He grabs his phone. "Nadia, we're sinking." His voice hoarse over the mob's roar, glass crunching underfoot as more bricks fly. "I'm on it," she snaps. "But you're a target now." The line cuts, static swallowing her, and Darius peers through the cracked window, Leonard's scarred fist raised like a warlord's. The passengers scatter, the woman in red fleeing. He doesn't deserve this. The balding man ducks. "They've lost it." The teenage girl films from a distance, trembling. This is insane. The live stream spikes, 70 million views, the world watching Darius's execution in real time, comments flooding. He's getting what he deserves. This is too far. He's trapped, the cabin a coffin, his empire's collapse a public spectacle, the summit a fading dream. But a spark flickers. Nadia's words linger, and he remembers the fired steward, Tim Hayes, who'd whispered about Eleanor's bribes back in Kansas City. Darius fumbles for Leonard's burner, its cracked screen still glowing, and dials Nadia. Again, glass raining as the mob hammers the walls. "Find Tim Hayes," he rasps, "the steward from Chicago. He knows everything." She pauses. On it, and hangs up, her mind already racing. Tim's a ghost now, fired after the first clash. But he'd seen Eleanor's cash change hands, heard Leonard's plots. Darius wedges himself behind the seat, the table buckling as a pipe smashes through, paint cans tumbling. The mob's relentless, Leonard's laughter a blade. But Tim's the key, a whistleblower who can turn this tide. The train jolts forward, the crew finally intervening, sirens wailing as cops swarm the platform, scattering the mob. Leonard spits, "Next time," and vanishes into the dust, his crew melting away, leaving Darius bloodied, barricaded, but alive. He slumps, breath heaving, glass cutting his palms as he grips the burner. His face bleeds, his hands a mess, but his eyes gleam, plotting. He's lost Nexus's value, his board, his dignity, the train itself. But Tim's a lifeline, a thread to pull. At 16, he'd hacked a landlord's lies to save his family. Now he'll hack this war to save himself. The cabin's a ruin, the desert sun glaring through the shattered window, and he wipes blood from his brow, his resolve iron. Leonard's free, Eleanor's winning. The world's turned, but he's not out. The train rumbles on, the summit a distant hope, and he clutches the phone, whispering, "I've got you." The mob's gone, but the war's not, and the next blow's brewing, a shadow he can't yet name. The TransContinental Express thunders through the Nevada dusk, its silver frame a battered relic streaking toward California, the desert sun sinking into a blood-red haze. Inside the Vista Suite, Darius Jackson huddles behind a toppled table, his torn navy suit soaked with sweat and blood, glass shards embedded in his swollen hands from Leonard Price's mob attack. The cabin's a slaughterhouse. "Go back," bleeds red down the walls. The windows a spiderweb of cracks. Bricks and paint cans litter the floor. His cracked laptop's dead, his empire's value slashed by $2 billion. TransContinental's lifetime ban a fresh scar. The mob's gone, scattered by cops, but Leonard's next time echoes, a promise of worse. Darius grips Leonard's burner phone, its cracked screen glowing with hope. His call to Nadia Brooks. Find Tim Hayes. A lifeline in the dark. His ribs scream, his face throbs, but his eyes burn, plotting. He's Nexus's king, a survivor, and he's not out yet. In Detroit, Nadia paces her office, her braids swinging, her phone a lifeline as she tracks Tim Hayes, the fired steward, from Chicago. He's a ghost, a lanky guy with a patchy beard who'd whispered about Eleanor Grayson's bribes before vanishing into the wind. She finds him in a Reno dive bar, his voice trembling over the line. I'll talk, but it's gotta be safe. Nadia books a jet, landing in Nevada by nightfall, her gray suit crisp as she meets him in a shadowed alley, a recorder in her pocket. Tim's jittery, his eyes darting, but he spills. Eleanor paid the whole crew, Miles, Clara, Leonard, to target Darius. Cash every time, hundreds, thousands. I saw it all. Nadia's breath catches. You'll testify? He nods. Yeah, but they'll kill me. She hands him a burner. Stay low, and races back, the recording a bomb ready to blow. Darius waits, the train rocking, his swollen hand clutching the burner as it pings. Nadia's text. Got Tim. Evidence locked. He exhales, pain lancing his chest, and dials her, his voice a rasp. Bring it to me. She's already en route, chartering a car to meet the train at a rural California stop, her mind racing. By midnight, she boards, her heels clicking as she slips into the Vista suite, her recorder gleaming like a blade. Listen, she says, pressing play, and Tim's voice crackles through, detailing Eleanor's cash drops, Leonard's orders, a conspiracy etched in every word. Darius's busted lip curls, a grim smile breaking through the bruises. This is it, he says, and they rig a live stream, Nadia's laptop glowing as he faces the camera, blood streaking his face. I've been framed, beaten, banned, he says, holding up the recorder. But here's the truth. He plays Tim's confession, 50 million views spiking overnight, the internet erupting. They're monsters. Darius is innocent. Passengers crowd the corridor, their phones out, the woman in the red coat cheering. He's got proof. The balding man nods. Game changer, scribbling fast. The teenage girl grins. Knew he'd flip it. TransContinental's board panics in New York, Victor Langston slamming his phone as Eleanor's allies, execs tied to her 15% stake, are fired via emergency vote, their emails leaking with the confession. Nexus's stock rebounds, investors creeping back, Nadia's voice steady over the line. We're climbing, Darius. He sinks into the seat, the leather cold against his battered frame, triumph washing over him. The train's hum feels like victory, the summit in Los Angeles a beacon again, his speech a phoenix rising. He's beaten them. Turned the tide with Tim's truth, his empire's edge sharpening. But the war's not over. In Denver, Leonard Price watches the stream from a jail cell, his hulking frame caged, but his gray eyes blazing. Eleanor's cash. Got him bail, but the confession's a noose and he's unhinged, his scarred fists pounding the bars. He bribes a guard with her last payout, slipping free by dawn, a ghost in the wind. He tracks Tim to Reno, fueled by rage, and ambushes him. Near the bar, a swift chokehold snapping the steward's neck. Leonard stages it, a rope, a bridge, a suicide, and vanishes, his burner buzzing with a text to Eleanor. Taken care of. Cops find Tim's body at sunrise, the scene clean, the note forged. Couldn't live with the guilt. The news hits the train as it nears California, passengers gasping, the woman in red whispering, "No way he'd do that." Darius stares at the screen, his swollen hand freezing, dread clawing his gut. Then the hammer falls. Cops board at the next stop, their boots heavy, badges glinting as they storm the Vista suite. "Darius Jackson," the lead officer barks, "you're under arrest for inciting murder." Passengers reel. "What? No!" the balding man stammers. That's insane! The cops cuff Darius, his torn suit ripping further, the metal biting his bruised wrists. Your stream pushed Hayes to kill himself, the officer says, his voice flat. We've got witnesses. Darius's eyes widen. That's a lie! But they haul him out, Nadia shouting, this is a setup. The teenage girl films, trembling. They're framing him again. Eleanor watches from Denver, her martini glass refilled, her cackle a venomous hymn. You'll rot in jail, she murmurs, her pearls back, glinting like teeth. Leonard's kills her checkmate. Tim's truth twisted into Darius's doom. Darius staggers down the corridor, cops gripping his arms, his body screaming, his mind racing. The passengers' cheers turn to gasps, the woman in red yelling, he's innocent. But the cuffs tighten, the train a prison again. He's beaten Leonard's mob, exposed Eleanor's cash. But they've hit harder, a murder rap dwarfing all else. At 16, he'd hacked to survive. Now he's caged by a lie he can't code his way out of. The Vista suite fades behind him. Paint dripping, glass crunching, his empire's rebound a fleeting dream. The cops shove him into a squad car at the platform, the desert sun glaring, and he clutches Leonard's burner, his last shred of hope. He's down, framed, but not out. His eyes gleaming with a vow, they'll pay. The TransContinental Express idles at a dusty California stop, its silver hull scarred from the journey, the desert night pressing in with a chill that seeps through cracked windows. Darius Jackson sits in a jail cell 20 miles away, a concrete box in a rural precinct, his torn navy suit a bloodied rag, his swollen hands cuffed to a rusted table. The murder rap, inciting Tim Hayes' suicide, hangs like a noose. Leonard Price's staged kill and Eleanor Grayson's cash twisting the steward's confession into Darius's doom. His face throbs from the mob's beating, his ribs ache with every breath, but his eyes burn. Clutching Leonard's burner phone, its cracked screen a lifeline smuggled past the cops. Nexus Innovations teeters, $2 billion gone, his board wavering, the summit in Los Angeles a fading echo. The cell stinks of mildew and defeat, a flickering bulb casting his shadow in harsh lines, but he's not broken. He's a Detroit survivor, a king who built an empire from grief, and he's got one fight left. He scrolls the burner's texts, his swollen fingers clumsy, and finds gold. Leonard to Eleanor. Hayes is done. Bridge. Clean. Time-stamped hours ago, a blueprint of murder, not suicide. Darius's busted lip curls, a spark igniting in his chest. He taps a guard, a young guy with a twitchy mustache. I need a call. His voice hoarse but firm. The guard hesitates. No dice. But Darius slides the burner across. Evidence. Get me out, or you're complicit. The guard's eyes widen, scanning the text, and he nods, slipping it back. 1 minute. Darius dials Nadia Brooks, his COO's voice crackling through. Darius, they're killing us! He rasps. Leonard's texts. Murder proof. Crash the shareholder. Meeting. Now. She pauses. On it, and hangs up. Her jet already fueled in Detroit. Her mind a steel trap. The train's a ghost town. Passengers scattered after the arrest. The Vista suite a silent wreck. Go back drips red. Glass glints. The table barricade splintered. In New York, TransContinental's boardroom buzzes. A glass-walled tower. Where Victor Langston sweats, Eleanor's 15% stake a shadow over the table. Nadia storms in mid-meeting, her gray suit sharp, her braids swinging, a USB drive in hand. You're done, she says, slamming it into a laptop, projecting Leonard's texts across a massive screen. Hayes was murdered. Eleanor and Price. Framed Darius. The room freezes, execs gaping, Victor's face draining white as the texts glow. Clean. Bridge! Gasps ripple, a board member choking. She did what? Nadia's voice cuts. You've got to kill her as a partner. Oust her or Nexus sues you into bankruptcy. The vote's instant. Eleanor's allies axed, her stake seized. A panicked scramble as stock plummets 40%. In Denver, Eleanor watches the feed, her penthouse a gilded cage, her martini spilling as she screams. No! Cops barge in mid-rant, her pearls clattering as they cuff her. Conspiracy to murder, the lead officer barking, her smugness crumbling into shrieks. Leonard, fleeing in a stolen truck, hears it on the radio, his gray eyes wild, his scarred, fists gripping the wheel. He swerves into a rail yard, tires screeching, and slams into a freight car, metal crunching as his spine snaps, leaving him paralyzed, sprawled in the dirt, sirens closing in. Back at the precinct, the guard uncuffs Darius. "You're clear," shoving him out as Nadia's jet lands nearby, her car screeching up. She leaps out. "We got him!" And he staggers in, his torn suit a badge, his eyes gleaming. "Let's finish this," he says, the desert night a canvas for his comeback. The train rolls on without him, the Vista suite empty. But Nexus's stock climbs, investors flooding back as news breaks. CEO cleared, exposes murder plot. Darius boards the jet, Nadia at his side, his swollen hand steadying as they jet. To Los Angeles, the summit his again. He's free, Leonard's down, Eleanor's caged, the burners proof a sledgehammer that smashed their empire. Passengers who'd turned, woman in red, balding man, teenage girl, watch online, jaws dropping. He did it. The jet lands, and Darius steps out. His suit a ruin but his spine straight, thinking it's over. The war won. But a guard's hand brushes his, slipping a note as he exits. "She had a partner. Watch your back." Darius freezes. The paper, trembling, his eyes narrowing. A shadow looms in the hangar, a new threat breathing, and he crumples the note, his breath sharp, free but hunted. He boards a car to the summit. The city lights a blur, his mind racing. At 16, he'd hacked to survive, built Nexus to rewrite a rigged game, and now he's toppled Leonard and Eleanor, their greed a pile of ash. The burners his sword, Tim's death avenged, but this note, a partner, is a venomous seed. The jet's engines fade, the desert night swallowing the precinct, and Darius grips the seat, his swollen hand pulsing, his resolve iron. He's beaten the mob, the bribe, the frame-up, but the war's not dead, a new beast stirring in the dark. The Vista suite's wreckage fades behind, the train a memory, and he whispers, "Bring it on." His eyes scanning the shadows, ready for the next blow, the summit a stage for his defiance. The Los Angeles skyline glitters as Darius Jackson's car speeds through the night. The summit venue a glowing tower ahead, its glass facade a beacon after weeks of war. His torn navy suit hangs in rags, blood and sweat crusted on his swollen face. His bruised hands gripping Leonard Price's burner phone, the text that freed him still glowing on its cracked screen. Nadia Brooks sits beside him, her gray suit pristine, her braids tight, her eyes scanning the road as the city hums with life. Eleanor Grayson's in cuffs, Leonard's paralyzed in a rail yard wreck, TransContinental's board gutted, and Nexus Innovations stock is climbing, $2 billion clawing back as investors cheer his exoneration. The guard's note, "She had a partner. Watch your back," crinkles in his pocket, a venomous whisper he's shoved aside, his mind on the summit speech, a vision of AI justice he'll deliver in hours. He's beaten the odds, a Detroit king who turned a train ride into a reckoning, and the war feels won, but the shadows breathe. Back at Nexus headquarters in Detroit, Darius rebuilds, his jet landing at dawn after a red-eye from the precinct. He steps into the office, his torn suit swapped for a fresh black one, his bruises fading under concealer, his stride firm despite the limp. The staff greets him with nods, a quiet awe replacing doubt, the news of his victory. CEO clears name, exposes murder plot, blasting on every screen. He calls a meeting, his voice steady, "We're stronger now," and lays out plans. New contracts, a PR blitz, a summit that'll cement Nexus as untouchable. The board, chastened by Nadia's boardroom coup, falls in line, their faith restored as stocks soar. He's king again, the burners proof a scepter, Tim Hayes' death avenged, Eleanor and Leonard's empire's ash. The Vista suite's wreckage fades, a memory of a train he'll never ride again, and he settles into his chair, the city skyline a conquered realm. Days later, he's back on the TransContinental Express, not as a pariah but a guest. The new management, scrambled after the scandal, honoring him with a plaque in the rebuilt Vista suite. The cabin's reborn, fresh cedar wafts, the walls gleam white, The windows frame a Pacific sunset as the train rolls from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Passengers whisper, "That's him." The woman in the red coat smiling, the balding man nodding, the teenage girl snapping a photo. The plaque reads, "Darius Jackson, champion of justice," a nod to his fight, and he runs a finger over it, his swollen hand healing, his chest swelling with the pride he's earned. He's beaten the mob, the bribe, the frame-up, and turned a racist trap into a triumph. The train's hum feels like home, a victory lap, and he leans back, the leather cradling him, thinking it's over. The note a ghost he's buried. Then the bombshell drops. A week later, Nexus's legal team uncovers a paper trail, a hidden shareholder in TransContinental. Harold Vance, a reclusive billionaire with a mansion in Montana. His fortune built on oil and railroads. His name a whisper in elite circles. He's the silent owner, a puppet master who's held 40% of the company's stock through shells, a racist titan who saw Darius's rise as a threat. The files reveal it all. Vance funded Eleanor's bribes, greenlit Leonard's hits, aimed to tank Nexus cheap and buy it at a fire sale, his endgame a tech monopoly under his thumb. Darius stares at the docks, his fresh suit suddenly tight, his breath shallow as the truth sinks in. He orchestrated everything, he mutters, Nadia's eyes widening, from the seat to the murder. The summit's triumph sours, the plaque a hollow trophy, his win a mirage. Nexus sues, a billion-dollar claim that hits Vance like a freight train, the evidence airtight. Emails, bank transfers, a web of greed unmasked. The news explodes, 70 million views in a day. Billionaire exposed as racist mastermind. Shredding Vance's empire as stocks crash, his oil rigs idled, his rail lines boycotted. He loses billions overnight, his Montana retreat swarmed by press, his raspy voice snarling through a gate. Lies! But the courts don't care. The suit a guillotine, and Darius watches from Detroit, his swollen hands steady as he signs the papers, his eyes cold. At 16, he'd hacked to survive. Now he's hacked a titan's world apart, Nexus rising as Vance falls. The summit speech a war cry that's echoed globally. The train crew, rehired under new blood, polishes the plaque, a symbol of his grit, and he rides again, the Pacific coast a blur, his empire secure. But the twist lands soft, a whisper in the roar. A stranger boards at a San Francisco stop, a wiry guy in a gray hoodie, his face shadowed as he slips into the Vista suite. "Nice fight," he says, his voice low, leaning close as the train pulls out. Vance's son swore revenge. Sleep light. He's gone before Darius blinks, the door sliding shut, the words a venomous seed in his gut. Darius freezes, the plaque glinting, the cedar scent sharp, his swollen hand curling into a fist. The war's not dead. It's reborn, a new air in the dark, a vow to match his own. He smiles grimly, the train rocking, the coast fading, his eyes scanning the shadows. "Let him come," he whispers, his voice a blade, the summit behind him. A new fight ahead. He's beaten Vance, reclaimed his throne, but the cycle spins. Vengeance a ghost he knows too well. The train rolls on, the Pacific a silver ribbon, and Darius stands, his black suit sharp, his bruises a badge. He's Nexus's king, a $3 billion phoenix, a man who turned a seed into a saga, racism into ruin. Eleanor's caged, Leonard's broken, Vance's crushed, but the stranger's words linger, a new war brewing in the night. He grips the burner, its cracked screen dark, and steps into the corridor, passengers nodding, the woman in red whispering. He's unstoppable. The plaque shines, the cabin his, but the shadow's real. A son's oath a mirror of his own at 16, a promise over a grave. The train's hum is a drumbeat, the fight unending, and Darius braces, his resolve iron, ready for the next blow, the next empire to topple. Darius Jackson's relentless journey on the TransContinental Express teaches us that resilience can topple even the tallest walls of injustice. Facing brutal racism, from a seat snatched by Eleanor Grayson to Leonard Price's mob attack and a murder frame-up, Darius never folded. His story screams that systemic bias thrives on power and cash, but it crumbles under persistent truth. He turned a petty dispute into a billion-dollar reckoning, exposing Harold Vance's empire with a hacker's grit and a survivor's heart. Lesson 1. Fight back with brains, not just fists. Darius used tech, burner phones, leaked emails to flip the script, proving intelligence outlasts brute force. Lesson 2. Allies matter. Nadia Brooks and Tim Hayes, despite the cost, stood with him, showing loyalty can shift tides. Lesson 3. The past isn't a chain. Eleanor's smear with his juvie record aimed to bury him, but Darius owned it, turning shame into strength. Finally, victory's never final. Vance's fall birthed a new threat, his son's vow, reminding us justice is a marathon, not a sprint. This tale's a mirror. Racism doesn't quit, but neither should we. It's a call to stand tall. Wield your tools and lean on your crew, knowing every win's a step, not the end. So, what's your fight? Comment below with number 1 if you've battled bias and won, or just say how Darius's grit hits you. Then hit like and subscribe for more real deal stories. Share this if you're ready to keep pushing, because the war's not over. Thanks for riding this train with us. Here's to your own unbreakable spirit. May it burn bright and never back down.